Hey, welcome to the Science of Branding podcast, a podcast about brands and how they work. I'm Thomas Belhacene.
And I'm Russ. And on today's podcast, we're going to be interviewing Thomas Belhacene over here.
Hello.
Quite the designer, I heard.
Oh, no.
He's also the CDO, Chief Design Officer, and co-founder, and a good best friend.
Oh, baby. It's a lot to drop at once in one sentence.
Let's start, though. We met at Art Center, right?
Yeah.
What brought you to Art
10
Center?
years ago? Is that 10 years ago already? No.
Is it?
About, maybe.
Is it 10 years?
Oh, God. Yeah, 10 years. Oh, my God. Yeah. What brought me to Art Center?
Is it really 10 years?
Dude, about. I don't know.
So I went there in 2009. When did you go?
I started in 2010.
2010. Okay. Yeah. That makes it easy.
It's about 10 years.
Yeah.
And we met halfway through that. So, yeah, Art Center, man.
What brought you to Art Center?
Oh, man. Before that, a lot of stuff. So I wanted to go into design when I found out I wanted to go into design, I think, when I was really young, when I was, I think, like 10, which is rare for somebody to know what they want to do.
10 years old.
But when I was around 10, I read a magazine about cars and car design. I found an article about car design. I saw some car sketches. And I used to love to draw as a kid. My family races rallies. So they're like, if you guys don't know what rally is, like crazy car racing. And I was around cars all the
trees
time.
And the bushes, and it's as dangerous as
really
can be.
So I grew up around that, and I used to love sketching. We used to work on some of the cars and stuff. My brothers were way more into it, and I was like drawing a lot and like doing stuff like that. And I found out that you could become a car designer. I was like, dude, that is a job that I want to do. I love cars. I want to draw. And I wanted to design things. And I found out about this school called Art Center College of Design in California. And I used to live in France at the time. So I was a kid that grew up in France trying to figure out what the hell the car design is. And I found out about this school in California. I was like practicing from 10 to 14 years old. And then my dad was like, let's move to the US. And I was like,
what are the chances? Like, dude, near the school too, right? Because
it was kind of close. Like my dad, we moved to California around like in Temecula, which is kind of further away from LA. It's about like 2.5 hours out.
Yeah.
But I knew that at least I could get to high school, learn English, like practice my English and stuff for 4 years, and then be able to go to Art Center at 18 or something when I graduated.
Wait, before moving to the US, you knew about Art Center?
Yeah. I read in a magazine, in a car magazine.
I
saw these sketches,
man.
and I was like, this is cool. And it talked about this car designer. And this car designer, I don't remember who it was, but I remember talking about this school. And at the time, internet was like barely a thing, and I couldn't look it up. I couldn't look up Art Center College of Design California. So like for me to figure out what the hell that was, it was really tough. Yeah. So I just knew it was in California, and I knew it was in Pasadena, and I knew that like legendary car designers came out of there, and that's was my that's where I wanted to go. So when my dad moved to California, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna come with you. So 14 years old, I packed my bags. I was like, let's go to America. Live the American dream.
That's crazy, man. When I was that young, I don't even think I was thinking about college. That's wild.
I don't think I was thinking about college either, but I learned about that school. And I was like, when you're 10 years old, actually in France, 10 to 14 years old is the years where they start telling you like, hey, you got to start picking a vocation.
Really?
Yeah. So in Europe, they want you
to specialize.
Yeah, they want you to specialize.
Do you prefer that, or do you like the American way where they're just like...
I think you're too young. I think you're
be
too
a flower,
You're too young. I think you're too young to know what you want to do with the rest of your life at 14 years old. Because around 14 years old is when they tell you, go to trade school or go to the higher education path, and then you have to figure out what you want to do, right? So that was right at that time. And when my dad told me, hey, we can move to the US, and like kind of like I don't have to pick a vocation yet. And because American high school is like very different. American high school, you don't have to pick a vocation. You don't have to do anything. You go do sports half the day, and the other half you're at school kind of. And it's like
just show up, you get a prize.
So for me, I was like, I want to go to California. I want to learn English, because if I'm going to go to a design school like in California eventually, if I can make it, like
You didn't know English when you were 10?
No. Well, not when I was 10. When I moved in, I was 14. I didn't know that much English. I took a few English classes at school, but like I sucked. I was terrible.
Yeah,
I learned whatever I could learn,
like
curse words and movies or something.
Yeah.
That's about it. Or music, whatever I heard in rap videos and stuff. Like, that's kind of all I knew. And then I moved to the US, and I was like, I don't know anything. So it's good for me to learn.
Yeah, it's good.
So I did that. And then as soon as I graduated high school, I tried to head to Art Center.
Ooh, did you look at any of the schools?
I did. I did my research. By the end of the day, I still gravitated for car design. At the time, there's no better contender worldwide. Like, that was the best car design school in the world. Except for maybe Pforzheim in Germany that would like pump you out directly into car design studios in Germany.
Yeah.
I would say them and RCA, Art Center, and CCS in Detroit. But I think Art Center felt like California. It's close to where I was. I wanted to be in the sun.
Yeah.
And it's like legendary car designers came out
Dude,
of there.
CCS was handing out cash.
I mean, at the time,
yeah,
around 20, like, was it 2010? Yeah, they were. I mean, they bought new buildings downtown Detroit, and they were trying to make it an image, but it's still Detroit, and I think they were struggling a little bit with trying to get people in. But yeah, so came to Art Center as a car designer. So I got in it took me 2 years to get in Art Center because I did my portfolio and I wanted to skip credit, so I went to community college, built a badass portfolio, and then like learned everything I could. Yeah, actually, I mean,
I freaked out too. I was like, "Oh shit, I need a portfolio for Art Center. I don't have a
figure
design."
out what that is. Yeah, it's like you want to go to design school, and they're like, "Hey, you need a portfolio," and then you talk to their you talk to a lot of their kind of guidance counselors and stuff to help you get in. And they kind of tell you what's a portfolio, but nobody tells you what a portfolio is because they're not car designers. They don't know. Like the panel that judges these things are ex-car designers, and they're people that know the industry, and they look at portfolios and they try to see who can get into school and who has like kind of the basic skills. A lot of the guidance counselors are not designers, and so they have a hard time gauging what that means. So they can't really teach you what you need. I was lucky. I worked at Art Center in the student store before I started Art Center.
That's a huge help.
So I got to learn the ins and out of the school. And
you're just printing out everyone's homework.
No, I was just there selling them their art supplies. And in the meantime, like people would come in, teachers would come in and give me some like free demos they just printed out. And like I would learn like this. I learned a lot from the peers that were there that were just like, "Oh, you want to become a car designer? You come here, I'll give you a sketch demo." And I was like, "Okay." And I sat there and they taught me how to design cars when I was like before Art Center. So that was cool.
That's sick, man.
And then started Art Center and did car design for a bit before I got distracted.
Wait, you got distracted at Art Center?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You got into product. Tell me a little bit about that, man.
It's quite a yeah, I don't know.
It's an unusual path for an automotive designer through Art Center. You didn't take the typical path.
Yeah. Art Center is unique. They really focus on creating designers that can go out into the world and become corporate designers. They want you to like learn this skill and go out there and do that.
Yeah.
And so
it's super tangible.
Yeah, it's very tangible and very focused on trades. So car design is a major, like transportation design. They teach you how to design pretty much cars.
Yeah.
And then they sell you to they send you to a car design studio. And then product design is a bit more vague. It's a bit more wide. It's like there's way more applications to product design. So that's anything from a chair that you're sitting on to the door that you open to anything. Any product you interact with has been designed and engineered. And so I found it a little bit as I was doing car design and I was sitting there at my desk for hours on hours sketching because that's really what it's all about. It's like a lot of either 3D modeling nowadays or sketching. I realized
we got to bring some of your sketches here, man.
Yeah,
we need to be able to see some of these beautiful sketches.
Maybe we'll put some post-production visuals up of some old stuff.
Do a little live car for me.
Oh my god!
next time.
Yeah, I don't know. It was. I had a hard time after four semesters. I started slowing down a little bit on the car thing. I was like, man, maybe I want to learn more things. I want to learn how to, because car design becomes like fashion a little bit where once you pass the function of having to put passengers in a vehicle, like you're kind of just styling. And there's a lot of styling to do. All the way down to headlights and like wheels and so it was.
And I'm sure like they're trying to cut down margins too, right? Like from going to like concept vehicle, it's like being able to have all the aesthetics of the designs that you put in.
That's a whole other direction. We can get into that. That's a whole new that's a whole new conversation because of like how the industry is set up to work. But we can dive into this a little bit because I think it's interesting to see the different industries and how they work. The similarities and differences are pretty fascinating. And as a designer, I think that's what I wanted to learn at Art Center is to be more flexible of a designer. I didn't want to just do cars. And I was worried I was putting myself, and it's fine because some people are incredible. Some of my best friends are car designers and they're incredible at it.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the focus personally to want to sit there and just design cars. And so I wanted to be out there and like doing other stuff. And so I kind of wanted to learn more than that, than just doing cars. And that's what product design taught me at Art Center. So I managed to get into some product design classes, did a little bit of that. And that led me to internships, then jobs, then, like kind of what I'm doing today. So it's kind of.
What made you kind of like gravitate away from cars? Was it that like some of the problems have been kind of solved already? That like sometimes it seems like, when a new car comes out, it's not necessarily going to look really that different.
Yeah.
Versus like if you have to come out with a brand new product from scratch, that's kind of
there's
almost a different challenge.
And cars are very complicated to like objects. They are a product basically. Car design is a specified product, but I think it's a way more complex product. Therefore, it doesn't innovate as fast. It doesn't change as fast. Like,
It's also like there's a safety. You can't like fail fast.
No, you can't. It takes 5 years. It takes 5 years to design a new car. It takes that long to be able to
5 years. So from beginning to end,
from brief to clay to 3D to building molds and like stamping stuff and updating factories and just it takes 5 years, which is pretty quick. Because
are the EV companies now doing the same thing, or are they trying to speed up that process?
Well, now they're trying to speed up the process by sharing platforms across a lot of their range and like their vehicles, so they can assemble them faster. And the only thing that changes is the external panels.
Yeah, the Model Y is basically just an extended Model 3.
Tesla took Alias, for those of you that know 3D, and just like non-proportionally distort all their cars to create their models. We'll show a visual of that side by side, so for you guys to know. But sorry, I lost. What was the original question? Oh my god.
Oh, we were talking about Art Center, and then how you didn't take the typical path. You know, like most automotive designers. They kind of tell you like, hey, this is how you become a black belt in automotive.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you said, I don't know if I really care to be black belt. Yeah. Or you were a black belt already and you wanted to try new martial art or discipline.
No, I think for me, so I went to a couple internships right away at Art Center in car design. That taught me a lot. They were very, very eye-opening, I think, in terms of the realities of the industry and the day-to-day life that you would live as a car designer and the things that you would do. Some of them I was totally down for. Some of them I wasn't sure about. And that happens in every industry, right? There's positive and negatives. But I think for me, like Art Center allowed me to do that, do a lot of internships. I did 5 internships. I was a notorious like intern. That then led into contract jobs, that then led into full-time jobs.
It's so beneficial. Like people underestimate the value of an internship.
I mean, if a design school is going to offer you anything, they're going to teach you something. Obviously, like they're going to have either industry experts like be able to teach you that. You're going to get really good internships that could potentially land you future jobs. And at the same time, you're going to make connections. I think that's why we went to Art Center and paid so much money. I think it's mostly for the connections that you make outside of it.
Sure.
So internships were key because before graduating, I could figure out what I wanted to do as a job. Whereas if I didn't do any internships, I would have been dumped into the industry as a car designer. It would have taken me 5 years to figure out that I didn't want to be in that industry. And then you're stuck. And then you're stuck because like design moves so fast. When you're a car designer, you're always looking behind your back at the new kids coming out that know more like new skills, that can design faster than you, that can do fresh hot shit and hot sketches, and like they don't have the expertise that you have and the experience, but they're coming hot behind you. So if you can't like
you just gotta keep it going
better, it's an interesting industry.
So for me, I feel like I'm in the hot seat right now in that type of industry, man. Like it was software, it feels like software just like the same way, right?
It's like that, but software is that. I mean, but they pride themselves on that concept that they can move and iterate so fast.
Yeah,
but that creates crazy, toxic companies and toxic like employee relationships and stuff because you have to move so fast. And that car design was a little bit like that internally as designers. I think there's a lot of competition because you're basically competing against all the other designers for the one project. So that's also very different from my other jobs.
Is that so? If you do get awarded the project, you come out with like the coolest sketch. Do the other designers just work for you to produce that
sometimes
sketch?
So like sometimes a junior designer will be matched up with a lead designer that has more experience in developing 3D cars and like understanding the pain points of that process, because there's huge process gap between being a junior designer and a senior as a car designer, and even as a forward designer or any designers. There's like things that you learn about how just the industry works that make you that expert. So sometimes if it's a junior that wins, you get paired up probably with the lead and they work together. And then sometimes
they let the juniors also pitch concept cars. It's
more rare. It's more rare that juniors win concepts and
but
cars.
It does happen.
It happens all the time.
Oof.
Yeah,
that's got to be interesting, like politically, to have like a junior win a sketch and then a senior has to work on producing.
I know interns have won sketches that then had like their internships extended and then they became full-time designers. But it's that iterative cycle for sure. It's like they want the young designers to learn, but obviously when you're a young designer or a junior designer working on a full-size automotive clay car,
that's cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's like it's next level. So there's a lot of things that people help you with. Yeah.
How much are those clay cars to produce?
Oh, clay is not that expensive, but then they take these clay cars and then they make physical 3D model. They make physical models
for sure,
like auto shows and stuff like that. Those are like 2 to 5 mil, 10 mil.
Wow.
I've seen some exorbitant amount of money being spent. They're basically big marketing moves, right?
Do we get to see most of those concept cars, or are there concept cars that they're just like they look at and they're like, what the heck did we just do right now?
When I was at Volkswagen, they have a Volt. They have a Volt, just concept cars.
Yeah.
Like some made it to the public, some did not. Some of them are some of the most incredible concept cars you've ever seen that were never shown to the public. Like some of the most incredible pieces of art. They're art at this point. They're like a $10 million sculpture, like $10 million sculpture.
Yeah, for sure.
It's art. There's a full interior, exterior. Most of them are drivable. It's just incredible. And the fact that sometimes they just get crushed or like they just disappear is crazy. I mean,
they crush them. They crush those concept cars.
Some companies have been known to do that.
It's like those. The other time I heard it was like those Louis Vuitton. If there's any like little tiny defect, they burn the whole bag, and that actually is like super common. Like they do it all the time. Yeah. If the stitching is just like a little bit off.
Yeah, it's perfection or nothing.
Oof.
Yeah,
that's beauty. Do you see that changing in the future, or do you like now that it's probably easier to 3D model and stuff like that, and yeah.
I think iteration cycles are getting faster in car design as well, just because technology. Some manufacturers, most people do clay still, but I think that's going away. A lot of people are now going full digital VR, full giant presentation rooms where they can see the car full scale in digital.
And like sit inside of it.
Yeah, I know. Bugatti didn't really do any clay for their cars. They did a lot more digital.
All digital.
Yeah, and they could just like perfect highlights and like everything. It was insane. Like this was just beautiful, some of the work you can do.
Almost like every single car website, when you go to like their careers page, there's like a guy in like VR. Are they actually, is that just PR?
No,
are they actually?
It's a new thing. They're using it a lot more, especially for interior mock-ups. They'll sit you into a buck, what they call a buck, which is like a fake seat and like a dashboard, so you feel like you're in the space, and then they put a VR headset and you can see the whole interior.
Oof.
So like you're really sitting there, you can see the materials, you're like sitting close, you can see the seat and stuff, and it makes it feel like you're in the environment. It's cool. Exterior is a bit harder for VR, but I think it's still a pretty interesting tool.
For sure.
It's getting better and better, so soon you'll be able to like just look at those like that.
Yeah.
Until they have really real holograms.
That would be wild, huh? Like getting to like see the inside of the vehicle, like just see right through. Yeah. And like pull different things out like Iron Man.
Well, the crazy thing is they're sitting in this interior and he's like, hey, maybe show me this in leather, and then you change the color palette and all of a sudden it's like, boom, you get an interior. Whereas like if I did an interior buck of a car and I stitched every seat and made it everything, like I could have only made one. They wouldn't have been very efficient. You'd have to like fully model it. They still fully model car interiors out of clay. It's insane.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane.
I can't wait till that becomes more like consumer available, where like you can almost like 3D print panels for your car at home.
Yeah, it's happening slowly.
Yeah.
When 3D printing gets to that point.
Yeah.
It's hard to make it big right now.
We got to get a 3D printer in the office.
I don't know what we make with
it. It reminds me of like the model shop at Art Center.
Oh yeah.
You spent a lot of time in there.
Oh my God, too much time.
Yeah. Do you have any like favorite models that you like look back on and you're like, man?
Yeah, I mean, I love the models I did, but again, I look back on it and I'm like, was it really necessary to spend like that much money and time and resource and like honestly bad health that goes into making 3D models that you have to paint and sand and like prime.
Oh yeah,
it's part of the art. I think it's beautiful and it's fun. It's also what makes it fun. But I think nowadays it's a bit wasteful probably to do things like that. Looking back, they're just sitting there now. These models, they help you get a job and stuff, which is cool, but.
They're cool, man. You get to always hang out with them.
They're in boxes, or most of
they're boxes. You're not gonna take them out.
Some people did them out of clay, so they're kind of screwed. 5 years clay, you can throw it away, But I 3D printed a lot of my stuff. I milled them or something.
Yeah. My God, man. So Art Center, when you're graduating, like what was when you go on Nike, right? How did that happen? Because Nike's so different from automotive. Like you're going to footwear and different things like that.
Yeah, in some ways.
Yeah. How did that like introduction happen? How did you make that decision to go to Nike? Yeah.
It's so while at Art Center, I did two car design internships. Then I managed to get an internship at Nike.
Yeah.
At Art Center, and that opened the door for like it just opened the door for me to be able like understand something else in car design, because I was like taking some product design classes. I was like, is this really a job that I want to do? So I got an internship at Nike.
How did that come about?
How did that come about? Oh yeah, we're making connections at Art Center. One of my teachers, I designed. So my first product design class I took, I designed this prosthetic leg, and I did this whole story.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Model and all that kind of stuff.
We should pull up an image if we got it.
Yeah, and the co-teacher Douglas, you guys should check him out. The Brown Buffalo. He does like these amazing backpacks. He's like one of the most like world famous backpack designers, and he knows all these random people in the industry, and just sent a text to people on Nike and stuff, and sent some of my images. And they asked me for a portfolio, and I just sent a portfolio, and they got back to me, and they were like, hey, we have an internship open this summer. Do you want to come? And I was in Italy doing a car design internship, and I was like, do I fly directly to Nike and do an internship at Nike? Okay, cool. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, so I flew to Oregon, and got an internship at Nike. And that opened the door, because Nike is so good for their internship programs.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, they just like go all out. They make you like want to live there and like dream the life. And it's just dream life. And so you go there and you're like, oh, this is cool.
What do they got, like dorms, or like what do they hook you up with?
No, it's just there's an internship program, and they make all these activities. And Nike during the summers, like all lively, they have these like Thursday events where they have like famous musicians that come and play there with these like concerts and all
it's
these.
tricky.
So
those
big
corporates, they're sexy to work for.
Nike has these 2 massive gyms, like 3 football fields, and like you have all the amenities to make like a dream summer internship, you know?
Yeah.
And you're in Portland, Oregon, which is a beautiful city, cool place to be. So like they like really go into it. And I was one of like 4 designers or 5 designers that had an internship that year. The other ones were like graphic design and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I got put in a team, and it was kind of like, well, learn how to sketch shoes. I never sketched a shoe in my life before.
So immediately just threw your own product team, and they're like, here's, you like sketch some shoes.
They were like, hey, so you're part of the basketball team, and working with Leo Chang at the time was the director. And they were just like, yeah, okay. And then Leo started giving me projects, and like we kind of just worked with the team, and just I had like
how did they projects. Like even like start briefing you? Are they just like, oh, like you know how to create a shoe, right? Like just start sketching some shoes.
No, you just have to figure it out.
You just have to figure it out. They're not guidelines like, hey, like here's some stencils you can use.
It was kind of crazy. Now it was just like I had to just basically try to meet the team, meet the designers, learn what the job of
what they're doing.
Let's be real. In 3 months, like, it's like when you're a car designer, you can go in and sketch cars. As a forward designer, there's not that many competition all the time, so you can help in like a few projects that are already going. They don't have like a specific project for you, or they give you your own brief and you do what you want for the stuff. So I did a bit of inline work with the team, so I had to learn what they did and just try to pitch in where I could. And then most of it was like me learning the job and me trying to like do cool stuff. And then the other half was like me building my own project to present at the end. We had a big internship project where all the designers would present to like all the design team. Like,
they made each intern like present a final project.
Each intern had a final presentation and show.
Interesting.
And that was open to all the designers in Nike. And there's like 1,200 designers that work on campus. So it was like an open house with like all these designers. The CEO.
What? How many interns?
There's like, I think this year was like 5 design interns, I think.
5 design interns? And they present in front of 1,200?
No, they come through. It's like a open house. So some people come, some people don't come.
I was about to say, they're just like, intern, like, here you go, present to 1,200 designers.
It's like an open house type thing where they like invite all the designers, and then people can come through.
Yeah.
And then the CEO, like
a gallery space almost?
Yeah, so you said this, they have a maker space. They have a huge garage that's retrofitted into a makerspace with all these machines and stuff, so you can make shoes. It's super cool.
It's cool.
And in that studio, you basically can set up your space and do whatever you want. With your presentation.
That's it. It's like Art Center?
Kind of. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But it's like speed dating. You just stand by your booth, and if somebody's interested in talking to you, because there was like a forward designer, a material designer, one of them was a digital designer, one of them was a space designer.
Yeah.
They all like presented, and then all these different people stopped by. It was cool, because I just like sketch the crap and like build the crap out of that whole internship. I just like stitched a bunch of models and like 3D printed stuff. And
I know you went ham.
I just put a bunch of stuff on the wall. And
this guy, his presentations at Art Center is ridiculous.
over the top.
You got to paint the walls. You got to get special lighting effects. You got to get custom plutonium, or not plutoniums.
Plutonium. I wouldn't.
The platforms, not plutonium. Platforms.
Podiums.
Plutoniums.
Yeah, that's good. So that presentation, and at the end, that presentation was kind of like, hey, do they want to give you a full-time job at the end? Because technically you're supposed to be graduating the year of your internship. and I didn't graduate until like 2.5 years after.
Okay. Did you lock it in before graduation, or did you?
No, because I wanted to do more internships, and I wanted to learn more. I wanted to do more stuff. So I did Nike, and then I went back to school.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Google.
Then Google. It's good though, man. Like this exposure, like people underestimate. Like
it's game
at our age now, we can't just jump into a company for 6 months and be like, "Tell me all your secrets," and then walk away.
It's so it's so hard to know what you like. You go into your first job out of school and you stay there like what people expect you to stay there 2 to 5 years or something.
Yeah, and
like,
that can
what if
really
that's not what you want to do.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Then people become, and I've seen it, like people become super sour in their first 5 years and they hate it and they just like.
Of course, but they're like, this is my reality now. Like, well, I don't really know what else is out there. I've kind of developed my skills around this.
Yeah, and now it's like, unless you've been on the weekend hustling hard to do other stuff.
Yeah.
Then you've specialized really quickly into one thing.
Yeah, and then you can't switch once you do that.
No.
Yeah.
And what happens if there's so many like case scenarios that pin you into this hole of like you're a very specific designer. And I felt that working at Nike for 5 years. After a while, I was like, footwear is great, footwear innovation is great, but I need to move on. And anyways, that's maybe later we talk about this. But yeah, no, Nike was kind of like just the internship. Phenomenal. Then I went to my next internship, and both of them taught me more stuff after. Yeah. And after that, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to like, where did I have more fun? Where did I learn the most? Where did I see myself living there for a while? There's a lot of things to consider. And after graduation, that ended up being Nike, and that's kind of why. And also the job that they offered me was like hard to pass. I was like,
it's pretty sick. It's pretty sick.
I love doing what I did, and I was just like, yeah, I want to do it for sure.
Because you got to hang out with athletes, which is kind of like a childhood dream, right? Yeah, like soccer athletes. And then the other part that's so wild for me is that like you got to create like a product that was like worn in World Cup, right? Basically the Mercurials, the soccer line from Nike. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, that's gotta be fun to see. Like, what are the other highlights of Nike?
Nike was pretty incredible first job, honestly. It just has a lot to make you really happy right away. Like you jump into a big corporation that has
the comforts there.
Exactly.
The safety blanket's always waiting for you.
Like you can join a startup right out of school, but you're not going to get the comfort that Nike is going to offer you. And there's just so much. Of
course.
So coming in, I got a job as a forward designer in global football, which is their soccer. Because for some reason there's 2 footballs, obviously.
Yeah.
So global football, which is soccer. So yeah, my job was to design soccer cleats.
That's sick, man.
And there's only 4 there's only 4 shoes really in the lineup. Those shoes have different like tiers and models and stuff, but typically there's like a lineup of 4, now 3 models, and so there's 4 designers, and each designer is responsible for a model.
Man, that's gotta be exciting. Like I remember even as a kid, like I would go to the store and like the soccer shoe was like a big investment.
Yeah.
You really thought about it.
Kids go crazy.
Yeah, kids go really
crazy. Like I remember when I was a kid, like I pressured my dad to try to get me the latest shoes because it was like embarrassing not to play with the because like, the materials and stuff's not the same, and then all your friends are like, oh, is that the lower tier version and like stuff. But like it's like kids lining up to get Jordans, sneakers.
For sure,
soccer shoes are like they're worn by that's the most played sport in the world. They're worn by millions of kids.
Of course, yeah.
And so that was an interesting job for sure. I started from the bottom. I started like one of the smallest projects, and worked my way all the way up to like one of the biggest projects at Nike with the Mercurial line, which was really fun. It took 5 years and a lot of mentorship from all the people I work with. Incredible designers over there, engineers and developers. But I think what I liked a lot about Nike was the fact that I got to work with a lot of different functions. When you're a forward designer, you're working with material designers, you're working with forward developers that work with
factory. Sorry, that's my phone.
Oh, babe.
We gotta make sure to turn that off. That's our buddy CTO, Europe. Michael.
Oh yeah,
I believe from France.
I see a French phone number. So you as a forward designer, you get to work with a lot of people, a lot of different functions. And I think Art Center doesn't prepare you for collaborating with so many different people.
Yeah.
And then you get into the real world, and right away I was like responsible for working with a material designer, a graphic designer. Sometimes you're working with a footwear developer that works with their factory. You work with a footwear engineer. You work with a PLM that's like giving you a brief and
it's like a different game.
It's a different game. All of a sudden you're juggling like 10 different balls, and if it's honestly as a designer, who can adapt the fastest to all these different roles? Understand every different role, what they have to deliver, and how you fit into that piece of the puzzle. Once you figure out that, then the other stuff comes, I think, pretty easily. And and that's what I liked about Nike is I got to collaborate with all these incredible people, and build some really fun projects. And after my third year, our design director like trusted me to work on Mercurial, which is the #1 worn soccer shoe in the world. And I was like, are you sure I'm ready for this? Like, I'm still a designer, I'm still a junior designer. I'm like, he's like, no, you got this. And I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And so that's when things like went next level, because this is where you present to chief design officer, you present to chief marketing officer, you're presenting to like the next level people. And I was like, oh man, that came fast.
It's funny how fast that happens, right? You feel like you're just thrown into it.
Yeah. And it was great. It was such a good learning opportunity. And after 4 years, I moved to innovation, and that was very different cycle.
Yeah.
Nike is split in almost two different departments in design for footwear. They have like inline footwear that works like 2 years out. So every 18 months, they're building new shoes and putting them out in the market. And then there's innovation that works 5 years out. And those are the guys that design like all the cool stuff.
5 years out, that's
sick. It and like all this crazy technology that they're pushing for the future. So I wanted to get a sneak peek inside the Nike
of course.
Innovation kitchen.
You got to see that lab.
It's like the secret lab, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I got to work in there for a while working on basketball concepts. And that was also really fun. That's a totally different challenge. Like understanding athletes are that big and like that, like freaking athletic. These guys, they're just putting so
200 pound, just so pure
much
power,
force and G's on their like ankles and knees and their shoes and like all this stuff. Like designing for these athletes was super different from soccer.
Yeah.
And yeah, that felt really, really fun too. That was a different challenge because you get different resources when you work in innovation and you have longer innovation cycles. So the process is very different. You can take your time analyzing the research. We had all these crazy scientists, like literally in their lab, like analyzing slow motion footwork and like all these different things, and giving you all these data and these charts. And they're like, if we did this with the footwear, like it could improve these guys' jumps by like all the crazy
10-20%,
crazy information.
Like all superpower stuff.
All of it was data driven. Like it wouldn't come out of Nike like innovation unless it was like check marked, like it has data behind to prove it. So they did that with the running shoes that broke the marathon world record.
Yeah, of course, with the carbon layer.
That just changed the game right there. Like again, an innovation that changed the game. Then they did the same thing on track and field. They added an airbag, and now they're putting airbags in soccer shoes. Woohoo!
pretty soon they're gonna have shoes with like little treadmills on there, like tanks.
I want rocket boosters on my soccer shoes.
Whatever happened to those rollies? Like back in middle school.
Their skater shoes.
Yeah, somewhere in Nike labs they have to have something with like a little rollie that they just never went with.
Oh, dude. Oh my God, they have like closets of innovation, incredible innovation.
Yeah,
and some stuff they just wait 10 years before they release it, and then they're like, I think the airbag was brought to them really early on, and they just couldn't manufacture it. So I think they bought the idea and then they kept it for a long time until they could manufacture it themselves.
That makes sense.
And it's still the only thing that they manufacture like themselves in this proprietary secret warehouse.
Dang.
The other stuff is manufacturing in factories and stuff around the world, but.
Okay, now tell me this, man. So now you're in like Nike Lab, you're seeing all this really, really cool stuff. You have like unlimited resources to play with and like these incredible like tools at your disposal. And then you're like, it's not hard enough.
Well, it was definitely incredibly hard.
I want to work in an environment with no resources.
Pretty much. From one day to another, yeah. Pretty much.
Like no crazy facilities. I mean, we got some cool stuff here, but like nothing like Nike's level, right? And then there's a lot of like unknown too. Like there's Nike comes with like really good playbook, infrastructure, amazing like HR and stuff like that. You kind of get to experience that good life.
It's years of playbooks, years of refining their product cycle to the point where it's like, timestamp to the minute almost when you have to hand off stuff, you know?
For sure.
No, Nike innovation was a huge challenge. I don't think I stayed long enough to really like see the full effect of what it would be. It was pretty incredible.
What did they call it in Theranos, the Normandy room?
Is that what they call it? I don't know. I haven't seen it.
In Theranos, the room where they actually like fake the test with the Siemens devices, they call it like Normandy, and they're like all of our secret tech is in there. Yeah. No, I'm.
It's all the fake tech then.
Yeah. No, Nike's got real stuff. I know. I'm just
Nike
playing.
has, the building is called LeBron James now. Actually, they built a whole new building, innovation building for LeBron. It's
That's cool.
Named after LeBron. It's huge. It's like one of the most advanced like facilities ever. But I Nike was great. Like innovation was super amazing. A lot of learning, a lot of things that were interesting, and then I realized. I mean, it's a bit about timing and a little bit about opportunity, right? Like you called me, you're like, hey man, I want to start this. So, I mean, I was like, I want to start this. I
just want to ruin your life.
I want to start this tech startup. Here's what my idea. Like, I think we can build a software and like do something really interesting here. And I looked at the opportunity. I learned a lot about it, and I was like, this sounds like the time to do something like this. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Always wanted to try to build something, like with friends and build something of our own. That's like you don't have to answer to a lot of people and. Where climbing the rank is not what it's about.
Yeah, it's no politics. It's just building together.
And I think I worked enough in that corporate environment where I was like, I think I need to try this now. Like in my career, while I'm still flexible, malleable, where I can learn fast, if I don't do this jump now and I don't try to go into a startup, I don't try to go into an entrepreneurial role, like I don't think I'm ever going to do it. Like you can, so I had to pull the trigger, and I was like, what can I learn? And I learned how to be a really good industrial designer, I think, in these different jobs. I didn't learn necessarily other skill set. I learned a lot about like kind of managing teammates and expectations and stuff like that. But when you're in a real like growing startup, you have to hire your own employees. You have to like do all these places.
Yeah, you gotta make sure they're happy and inspired and motivated.
It's a totally different world. It's a totally different world, and I think the industry really.
You actually have to worry about budget. Nike or like BCG were just like expense.
Yes. Even though on the products, Nike were counting pennies.
Oh, yeah, of course.
When I had to design a shoe that cost like $30.
They're like, can you use a different paint? That paint has like this expensive pigment in there that just we can't afford.
This glue is too expensive. We can use this. Oh, but then it's not durable and doesn't pass our durability test. Well, sorry. You got to change. You got to find a way to make it cheaper. And I was like, oh my God. Literally like sitting in cost analysis reviews and they're like 2 hours and you're just counting the pennies on a shoe.
Yeah, it's tricky, right?
Base tips, too expensive, move them. And you're like, oh God.
That's what got me out of soft goods too. I was just like, oh man, like this kills all the design work I just did.
The margins are trying to protect are tough, and when you're a designer, you don't necessarily understand that. You're like, but this is so much better.
Yeah, like people will understand.
But it's too expensive.
They will pay $400 for a backpack.
we don't make money on this. This is something Art Center doesn't really teach you about. Is like, hey, there's like cause value to what you're doing. You can't just design any cool shit ever that you want to do. Like,
of course,
a flying car is not gonna necessarily be easy to make and stuff. So, it's tough.
Do you know where the Back to the Future shoe came from? Was that just like marketing and Nike just being like, hey, we want to do something wild? Or was that like Nike Labs?
They got approached. Yeah, it's all the. It was, I think at that time, like the Nike innovation heads and stuff were all very intertwined with Hollywood, with a bunch of like, because they were they became pretty huge and famous. Like they became pretty well known people, and they had like a lot of industry collaborations between other industries. They did a shoe for Batman, the old Batman movie with Michael Keaton. They made like special Air Maxes for Batman. They did like Back to the Future. So I think they had these like, sometimes people are like, hey, we need these cool shoes for this movie. A lot of like they were about to film this dude flying on a hoverboard. You can't be wearing some crappy like shoes from the 1980s.
For sure.
So they were like, who can create a futuristic shoe? Nike. All right. Yeah. Let's have Nike build a real shoe. And then Nike made a shoe.
That's awesome. I
think that's how it works. Because like,
I hope to see way more projects like that in the future. Man. You know,
it's like, why would you go to somebody that's not an expert if you can just go to the expert that are your friends and just ask them to do you a favor, commercial marketing favor, because it worked out pretty well for both of them. Nike created a legendary shoe there.
Do you think that they're ever going to bring in like those shoeless? I know they have like a prototype, right? That's like $300, $400. Would that be like common?
They sell them now.
Yeah,
they sell a lot of shoes with the self-lacing system.
Oh man, kids are never gonna understand the struggle of learning how to tie your shoes. Dog.
You literally control your shoelaces through an app. It's pretty crazy. But I think they're trying to work into they're trying to work maybe into more adaptive systems for lacing. And I think it makes sense because there's a lot of kids with disabilities or people with disabilities, and so they're coming out with all the Fly Ease products are really easy. So that's great product design right there. For example, right, like. You listen to your consumer, you see that a lot of people have issues with disabilities and they can't tie their own shoes. Like, how do you do it? There's Velcro. that's not sexy, and that's not Nike, that's not performance. And then there's like what Nike created, which is like a whole line of product of like, hey, you can easily take on and off your shoes, and they're still performance driven. Like it's still Nike, and it's hard to do. I think it's a company that can manage to like do a lot of different things and still brand themselves really well. Like as a brand, they're pretty incredible. The system they build, the way they connect with their audience, the way they, if that's what we talk about, like brands and stuff, I think Nike is probably one of the most fascinating ones. That's why out of school, I can go learn from them. Like that's huge.
Okay, last question, and since we're talking about branding at the end, and then the same thing with like the software that you're designing now, right? Like there's so many like complicated things about, you know, even what we're doing today as entrepreneurs, and like what a lot of our customers have to go through when like trying to figure out the why of their brand. How are we kind of like, or how are you specifically, since you're kind of heading off product here, like looking at how we're approaching it a little differently, where you don't have to have like a huge communication design team to build like a quality brand. Like as entrepreneurs or creatives of the future, we'll have more time to create, you know, the Back to the Future shoe, or spend more time on innovation. Because like, unfortunately, like innovation is almost like a luxury. Like having like an innovation lab is like a luxury.
For sure.
But hopefully like the software
people
you design.
invest in R&D. Invest in R&D, like specifically to be able to do these things, right? It's not afforded to everybody. I think if one thing I learned across, I mean, I managed to design cars. I worked on self-driving cars. I worked on footwear. I worked on like so many, and now I'm working on software. Being able to go from industry to industry, the design process applies to a lot of these things. Like at the end of the day, you need to talk to a user. You need to understand where they are, what are their pain points, how do you meet them, how do you understand them, how do you translate what their needs and their pain points are into like solutions. And solutions are whether that you're designing a shoe, a soccer cleat. Well, I need to cut better and go faster and be more comfortable. If those are the problems I'm solving, I listen to my consumer. I'm going to solve these problems. Solving these problems in a different manner. Footwear is materials and you know, injection molds, and software is UI, and it's, you know, pixels. It's just the process is very similar, though. We talk to consumers and we try to understand what the pain points on the market are. We analyze them and we've experienced them ourselves as designers. The products we're building today are kind of, you know, we're solving a lot of problems that we've had. And I think by doing that, by just looking at this industry, looking at this market, understanding what their pain points are, we're doing the same thing in product now in UI, and we're just solving these issues differently. But the process is super similar. That's what's interesting.
It's cool. It's almost like you're creating a tool for like people like us, you know, to like,
I mean, that's kind of what we want to do. I mean, hopefully not everybody can go to a design school that costs, you know, $200,000.
Yeah, of course.
And like,
we were super
that
blessed.
Education, the education is not really available anywhere else. Or if it is available, it's available through YouTube, for example, and you can watch those videos. You can try to digest all that content, or you can use tools that empower you, that put a Superman suit or Iron Man suit on you, that allow you as a normal person to design whatever you need for social media, to design whatever you need for a website, whatever your needs are. Like as if for example, for us, our company is our users, we want brand builders to be able to, or any business builder to build a brand, a solid brand. Not everybody can go to a design school. Not everybody can hire an agency. So what else is out there?
That's expensive, you know, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work and it's expensive, and most people don't know about the power of it.
And it's almost like a weird barrier to entry too. Like if you have to enter the labor force at that point. Like even if you have a great idea, you have no choice.
If you design the best, the most amazing shoe, how are you going to compete against a Nike that has a voice that basically smothers anybody else's voice?
It's like 5% what you got to do.
It's hard, but then you have companies like On Running and like these companies that are like coming out of nowhere, creating one really strong product and then a really strong community, a lifestyle, a brand around it. And how did they build that brand? Well, they needed to figure it out. But for people that are trying to like compete against the big boys and they don't have those resources, there's not many tools out there that enable them to do that. For me, like when I left Nike, that was the mission, right? It's like, how do we enable people to not have to go through the design school necessarily that we went through? The hundreds of thousands of dollars that we had to spend.
A lot of struggle to try to figure out how to use typography.
and like that's one of hundreds of different problems, right? And I think there's a beauty of, you know, the design and a purpose that design serves in the world, I think, in terms of helping things be better and not just designing shit for the sake of designing stuff. Like we have enough crap in the world. We don't need to keep designing stuff. And I know, coming from somebody that worked at Nike, I can tell you a lot about designing a lot of stuff that's wasted, that's ending up in landfills and stuff.
Yeah,
software has a beauty is that it's wasteless. Like, you're in pixels, and
you can impact a lot of people,
and you can try a lot of different things. You can iterate much faster. You can take more risk potentially if you figure out how to do it right, which we're trying to figure out, right? So you're just solving all these problems. And now as an entrepreneur, and now that we're running our own company, the design problems are not the only problems we're solving, right? We're solving how to scale a company and how to market ourselves and how to brand ourselves. Also, like, our brand is a work in progress, and it always will be. Constantly. It's got rough patch and sometimes good patch, and we got to keep working on the brand and keep working on the image, keep working on the messaging. All these things, they take our experience, and we have that experience from a long time spent in it, but not necessarily the tools. So how do we deliver these tools, basically, is I think where we're trying to go, and we'll see where that goes. We have a few years ahead of us.
Selling painkillers for entrepreneurs and creatives.
I don't know about painkillers. I don't want to sell anybody painkillers. I want to sell them anything else but painkillers. I want to sell them, I don't want to sell them anything, actually. I want them to be able to, hopefully our product eventually will be at a point where we'll be able to offer it, and people, will be able to start building their dreams, whatever they want. Like, you want to start a yoga studio, great. You have the tools to do it.
Absolutely.
Like, we build a brand for you that's going to be strong. And then people can learn at the same time. I think that's also one thing is you're on YouTube, you can learn a lot, but you can't necessarily execute. With our platform, we're trying to make it so you can learn and execute on the same platform.
Yeah. And then even like with today's tools, right, you need like a whole team. Like, it's really, really tricky. Like, even if you knew exactly what to do, and you read a book and they're like, hey, you need to go on all these platforms, you need to post twice a day, you need to do all these different things, while keeping a consistent and a cohesive story. It's hard enough to figure that out in the first place.
So, next challenge, from cars to footwear,
that's tough, man.
Software. Let's see what happens,
Yeah.
There's a lot of room out there. There's a lot of design to do. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Beautiful, man. Well, thank you so much for letting me ask a few questions about your life. I got to learn a few exciting things.
Hopefully no more boring interview with you and me, and soon we can talk to some
folks. Oh yeah, we got to interview some of our friends who are a lot more exciting than we are.
We'll hopefully be able to bring some interesting guests to the podcast. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you have comments, questions, you want to learn more about some of our lives, some of our industry experiences, projects we worked on, let us know. And and anything else?
That's a wrap.
Thank you.
On that. Bye.